How the funeral play? Braxton.
I'm Brandon.
And I'm Jackson.
And this episode's all about our experience that we did. We did the marvelous journey of Edward Tulane at a funeral home.
Yes.
And it was an interesting show.
It was so good. It was as far as I am aware, What the Blank Entertainment is the first place to be a professional entertainment company that put a live theatrical performance in an actively serving funeral home. So it was a pretty amazing experience in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and there's just a lot of different things that happened during it, and it was because. Yes, we were a smaller company at the time, and...
Originally, back at that point, What the Blank Entertainment was just about making theater in non-theatrical places.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we were about. And it came from inspiration as I was going through my first 2 years of college. I did a lot of experimental theater, where you would do public stunts or public events in places that, wasn't advertised or wasn't expecting the show to happen there, just so you can get genuine reactions and see private moments publicly. That was the whole purpose of it. And I fell deeply in love with that whole idea of that section of theater and just the way it made you feel and just how you could pull so much out of people. And so I always wanted to keep doing that in odd places. And what odder place to do it
than a
funeral home. Yeah, so how did you get introduced to this funeral home? Because I know the story, but I think they need to know.
Yes, some backstory to the funeral home. Before What the Blank Entertainment was established, I worked at a funeral home as a funeral assistant. That was my day job. And I still did it after What the Blank Entertainment for a very long time. And as I was creating the company, one of our biggest supporters, all the way back from the founding, was my district manager at the funeral home.
Wow.
And as I had done my first couple events, he had supported fully, and he had brought up the attention of, we could probably put something on in here because we have a full showroom, and it would be pretty easy to turn into a stage. And so I thought, I'm going to take that as literal as I can. I'm going to scrape up as many ideas as I can get. And so I started asking questions throughout services here and there, like, if something like this was to happen, what would you look for? What themes? What would you want to portray? I wanted to just fish and see how serious he was about it. And so I did, and he gave me a list of themes and plays, or not plays. I came up with the plays myself to present, which Edward Tulane was chosen.
Yeah.
But he gave me a list of themes and how he would like to see it portrayed, and then eventually we pitched it, and we got to be able to actually do the thing.
Yeah, and what was cool is I was there for the pitches because I helped pitch a show, and it was kind of weird. It was fun, but he was joking the whole time with us. And it was just it was kind of crazy. Just he was trying to get me to laugh this whole time, and I was like, this is a pitch. We're supposed to be serious during a pitch.
Yeah, serious during a pitch, and then we're meeting in the meeting room where you make arrangements for your loved ones after they pass. So we're actually there in the environment, and which was kind of casual for me because I was there every day. But seeing Braxton's reaction was marvelous.
Yeah.
So, while you guys were working on it, how did the entire experience go for you guys from start to finish?
Well, okay, so some personal stuff happened, right?
Yeah.
So Brandon lost the ability to have his car.
Yeah, I lost full transportation the second weekend, and we had to travel 45 minutes to get there every day.
Through the mountains, right? So it was the other side of the mountains through Provo Canyon, and it was in Heber. And we had to drive that whole time. Luckily, it wasn't during the winter. It was during the summer and fall. Yeah. So it wasn't too bad. But it was a long drive, and I drove from Eagle Mountain, which is another 30 minutes on top of that, and it was crazy because Brandon's like, I don't know if we can do this show. Like we had so many close calls.
We did. Like, this show was, like, destined not to go on. It was destined not to go on. We had trouble casting at first. We made public auditions. We had, like, certain people that for sure wanted to do it. The funeral home was sponsoring. And very generous sponsors.
Yeah.
And a lot of the funeral directors ended up being in it. We had 3 funeral directors actively serving in the show, which was a lot because they were working crazy hour days, and then as soon as they were done with business, they'd have a 15-minute break, scarf down some dinner, and then we'd do 3-hour rehearsals.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that had happened. Originally, casting was hard, and I think it was because it was such a small town that we had never stepped foot in. We were used to working down in the valley, and we were going up in the mountains, so people hadn't heard of us. I think a lot of people weren't sure if this was real.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because auditions were held at the funeral home. That casting alone made a big challenge. Losing my car after having people casted and be like, oh man, because I was directing. So the whole, like, directing and producing, the whole show pretty much came on me. Braxton was supposed to work on other projects at the time, not involved. And he was like, well, I still have a car. I will be a part-time stage manager. And so he did. He pulled through.
Yeah, part-time stage manager, full-time producer, because I produced the show with you.
Yeah, he helped make a lot of creative decisions and doing some of the coaching. He now runs the theater education, that section of our business that wasn't existing back then. But he did have some educational experience in theater therapy, which really benefited the actors in that setting, and he really became a coach in that way to everybody.
Yeah, and so, like, pretty much I became, like, the assistant director. Like it started where it was like, okay, you'll be the director, I'll be the stage manager, and we'll just do it, right? And we'll both produce. And then it turned to, hey Braxton, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And then we just kind of became, like, director and assistant director, and then then I turned into the vocal coach, and then, like, I just, like, responsibilities just kept stacking, and I was like, what's happening? Like,
it makes it sound like a lot, but we had rehearsals 3 times a week, and he showed up at the beginning just to 1. So the more he showed up, the more he got to do.
Yeah.
Responsibilities just kept stacking on the longer you kept going.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
What was your thoughts because you were just a contractor, brand new to the company, you hadn't even done a single project with us yet. And then when you came to visit us for the first time, you visited us at a rehearsal.
I did. You guys asked me.
What was your thoughts?
Yeah, so, you guys asked me to go give you guys unbiased opinion on the show because I didn't know what you guys were doing at the time. And like Brandon just said, I was brand new to the company, and so I hadn't even worked on projects for them. I didn't know what was going on. And they're like, oh, we gotta go to our show. I was like, oh yeah, you guys are doing a play tonight? And they're like, well, we have to do rehearsals tonight. I was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, because I remember you talking about the rehearsals, and so I was like, okay, yeah, the rehearsals, yeah. And so we went, and when I got there, I honestly didn't think you were serious about a funeral home. I thought you were just making fun of it because it looked kind of creepy. And I was like, oh, this would be kind of funny to go in there. And we show up at an actual funeral home, and I was like, this is at an actual funeral home. This is where people, like, are dead at. This is crazy. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. Like, I like kind of dark and, like, weird things like that. So I was actually kind of drawn in at first. But then, I sat down in the audience area. There was no one in the audience. It was just me because they didn't want to just show it out to everyone at the time because they weren't ready. And so they had me go in and sit in and just listen in and just kind of, give feedback afterwards. And while I was there, at first, I mean, it seemed like you guys had a lot of practicing done because your characters and your actors knew the lines fairly well. There were a few times here and there, but that's just how it goes with practicing and rehearsals. There's always going to be hiccups, but that's what happens. And I mean, after a while, like I started getting more and more like interested in it. I was like, this is actually really cool. And you guys had like the audio system hooked up, or you were supposed to have that hooked up, and you had like the
that was
lights.
The first day that we were working with lights and sound.
Yeah, I thought that was
tech day.
I thought it was pretty cool that you guys were getting all that set up too. and you had all the props and everything in the back room, and it was fun watching Braxton go back and forth pulling props out, like walking in and out of the back room and moving stuff around and talking to everybody, and it was fun actually watching it because I used to be in theater as well when I was in high school, and I used to be lead actors and co-lead. And so I used to do a lot of that stuff in high school. So it was fun to bring me back to like that time where you get to listen to the producers yell at the actors the whole time, and you didn't actually yell at them, but it was fun to listen to you guys like guide the actors and your crew on like how things are supposed to work and when this is happening and when that's happening. And it kind of started like coming together near the end when like the play actually made sense, because at first I was like, I don't really know what's happening. Like it didn't make sense because I'd never heard of the play before, and so I didn't know what the story was, and I wasn't explained it, and so I just didn't know like what to really think. And we started going through it more and more and more, and I was like, oh, that makes more sense. Oh, I get it. Oh, okay, that's why that they do that. That's why they said that. So it made a lot more sense at the end of it. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to be there for opening night, so I don't know how the audience was able to respond. But it was interesting being there and watching you guys rehearse and put it together in front of my eyes. It was really cool to go see that.
And that audience was very small, because this was a tiny, small town that you don't really see theater in.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's where the risk really came in.
Yeah.
So we had fairly small audiences of, I don't know, maybe 30 people.
Yeah, 30 was our max.
Yeah, so like, and that's really, we didn't expect much more than that. We always have hopes, but you know, with the size of the town, we didn't expect much more. But yeah, I will say this is the one show, both in this company and while I was working independently for other companies as an actor, stagehand, any form of theater. This was the one show where we had roughly 30 people a night for 4 nights in a row, and we didn't get a single negative critique or negative review. Like no one had like strong opinions, like because everybody has opinions. Everyone's entitled to opinions. That's the point of art, is so that you can critique it and say what you think about it.
Yeah.
But like it just didn't happen with the show, and I was
That's amazing.
blown away.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And what's crazy too is like a lot of our actors were like either new to acting or like did it a long time ago and like were coming back after a long hiatus, and we like really overcame huge boundaries, to be honest.
We did, because in the story of the miraculous journey of Edward Tulane, the main character is actually a toy. It's not a person. It's not a toy played by a person. It is a toy. And the four actors around them play multiple characters, multiple different dialects, multiple different looks. You have quick changes that are seconds long.
Yeah.
Very dramatic changes. And again, this isn't a theater. This is a funeral home. It's not set up to do plays. And these people did it so quick, so learning. And some of these people hadn't done theater in 20 years. They did it back in high school, because 3 of our 4 people were funeral directors. They do funeral services for a living, and then the other one that we had, who was playing the voice of Edward, he hadn't done theater in a very long time either, and this was his first time getting back into it, and he did phenomenal.
Yeah, he did a good job.
And he's actually one of my friends that I was like, hey, can you do me a big favor? like I was like, hey, you said you're available. Can you help us out? Like, cause I knew he does theater, and I knew he was wanting to do it again. So I'm like, cause he was like hanging out at my house, and we were like playing video games, and I'm like, hey Tyson, I have a question for you. And he's like, what? And I was like, do you want to do theater again? And he's like, shh. What's the project? What's this? Like, I'm like, so it's the, like, I explained him the plot and a lot of that, and he's like, oh, okay, I'm liking this. This sounds fun. Like, and then we bring him into the cast, and he melds so well. Like, I was so surprised how well he like melded with the 3 funeral directors. Like, cause like it worked really well. Like the cast was like this at the end. Yeah. Like they were so like melded and really well done together.
Yeah, they seemed like they really came together when I was there too. Like they seemed like they were already a pretty tight-knit group. Like they all seemed like they were really like enjoying their time with each other.
Yeah. And the fact that like 3 of them work together all day, every day, and like, you know, most of the time you think, oh, you could get easily sick of your coworkers, and then having to spend another 3 hours with them after work.
3 to 4. Yeah.
4 hours on a Sunday.
Yeah.
When they're supposed to have their 1 day off.
Yeah.
And they would still come in and do the 4-hour rehearsal, and you'd think, wow, they're probably getting sick of each other. They probably got sick of me. But they did. They were so meshed together and did so well.
Yeah. No, and like, yeah, there was some difficulties. That backstage area, man.
Backstage was hard.
Tiny.
So it was super small, and we had to put the props like
in the arrangement room.
In the arrangement room, and then we had to put them all back into the small little cubby space
so that they could still do arrangements the next day.
Yeah.
Without being like obvious that something's happening in the funeral home.
Yeah. And so like it was just crazy how much we had to do. Like, it was exhausting.
It was.
And it was so much fun though. Like I think the biggest, like, hardest part though was those freaking curtains. Like figuring out curtains. So we like had curtains that we hung up on the wall, and we had to get set pieces in and out. And there was a point where they just kept falling on each other, and we'd like run into people and all that.
We had massive set pieces. We had a full bed. We had a full couch that we would move, and trying not to trip over each other or run those curtains down, black out.
Yeah, and like because I was the stage manager for the production, I like was running it, and
I mean, we were I don't think people understand. Like, most theaters have like a full crew. It was me and you and no one else as far as crew goes.
Yeah.
I was running lights and audio and taking tickets at the door. You were running the backstage warm up and leading the props coming in and out off on set with the actors stepping in also as stagehands.
And I was also like making sure the actors like were keeping on script and keeping things and like they kept wanting to change things.
Yeah.
And like
they were very creative cast.
Yeah, they were very creative, but it was like, come on guys, stick to the book. Like
And let's not talk about the terrifying incident of the night before opening.
Austin!
One of our actors had sliced his thumb while he was doing dishes. He was doing dishes and a plate had broke, I think is the story.
The ceramic plate.
And it cut the tip of his thumb off.
No.
Yeah, so like right here, like the face of the thumb, right?
So we get to rehearsal not knowing beforehand, and he has this giant wrap around.
Like it's like this bit. Like it's like almost like ping pong size ball. Like around his thumb, and we're like, "What'd you do?"
The night before opening, the night before.
Yeah, and he was doing like most of the set changes with me, and he's like, "I'll be fine. I'm like, "Or are you? Are you going to be like?"
And not to mention, our lead Edward had a limp at that time as well.
Yeah, he almost broke his toe. He like completely bruised the whole toe. Just because of an incident at home. Like, he just wasn't like paying attention, and he rammed his foot into something, and he bruised from the like where it connects to the foot to the end. That whole spot was bruised, and we were like, we have a cast of cripples.
and Edward was running constantly. He was running. At one point, he does a jump and dive behind a couch. Like, he was a very active person until, the bathroom door hit him or whatever he said.
Yeah, I'm like, are you sure?
I don't know if I believe this story. I'm sure he's going to watch this at some point. I don't know if I believe it still. He came in limping.
Well, and then our other 2 actresses, they got sick like the week before and
lost their voice. The storyteller, the narrator, the female lead could talk.
Oh my god!
And this show was not meant to happen. God did not want this to go on.
I think it's because you guys were in a funeral home. It was cursed.
They're like, they couldn't hit us with lightning, so like they had to hit us with plagues.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy that you guys were like overcoming all that stuff, and you still pulled it off at the end, though.
Yeah, well, and it really turned out great because it's a great show about loss and about like discovering yourself. Right, and how loving others kind of shows who you are. right? If you can't love others, you can't truly love yourself.
Yeah.
And like that's what the show is all about, and you could see it in the actors, right? It eventually got to that point with them.
They were so deep into the themes of this play, and they had picked it originally because it resonated with their mission at the funeral home. And you could just tell with everything that they were doing that like their motives were clear.
Yeah.
I think that's what made this such a good play.
Yeah. And it was so much fun.
They
like
were very dedicated.
Yeah.
Like, very dedicated to getting it done.
Yeah. I loved our narrator, the storyteller. Like she was so focused. Like she wanted to make sure like voices were different, and like because I did a lot of vocal coach stuff, because I've done vocal coach stuff since like high school, right? Like I've done it for 8 years. Just working with random people, right, who needed help, because I just know accents really well. Like, I can't necessarily do them all, but I know what it sounds like, and I know how to coach them through it. And she was like, okay, what can I do? How can I change this to be better? Like, it was so proactive that I was like, whoa, like, okay, like, let's get this done. And like, she texted me randomly and be like, well, what about this? And I was like, wow, like you're doing awesome, thank you. But yeah, it was interesting, and it was interesting to do it like at a funeral home that was also connected to a house.
Wait, there was a house on it too?
I mean, funeral home, like the term that comes from is because usually the main funeral director there, the head director, will live there. And watch over the funeral.
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's
so,
interesting.
like, it's an old South funeral home.
So
that was
so
still the case.
The family that was in charge of it at the time lived there.
I mean, they still do.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And so like we just had to make certain accommodations, and like we were able to do that for them, which was.
And that's the fun and challenging part of experimental theater, which I don't think your experience had really gone that deep into it. I had done quite a lot of things, but this was my first time directing a project of this scale.
Yeah.
In such a unique place.
See, and I've done unique stuff, like, cause like I directed a one-act play where I had to do everything. I produced it, I lighted it, I sound direct, like I did everything. And I had an actor that would never show up for rehearsals. Like he'd say, "Oh, I had this scheduled," and I'm like, "But you signed up for this."
Yeah.
Like, and so like nothing to like the scale that we had. But
well, it's different when you have a venue that like it's set up for lights. We have the audio ready to go. This is where the stage is for sure supposed to be. We made absolutely everything out of nothing.
Yeah.
There is no audio. There was no adjustable lights. The floor was flat. There is no elevated stage. We made it all out of everything we could.
And we like had to change up the seating to like fit it better, and we even like tried to make sure like our audio, like cause they have an audio system, but it's mainly just supposed to play. It's supposed to play music. That's all it's supposed to do, right? And we were like, let's put sound effects on this, right? and it worked. Like, one of the craziest things, really quick, before we can like kind of wrap up with our end thoughts, is my thought was freaking when I got pushed into the wall by the couch. So we were like bringing stuff in, and I got pushed into the wall because one of the actors couldn't grab it, and so one of the other actors came in, and they never did it before, moving the couch, so they like just shoved it, and I got like blasted into. It wasn't the wall, it was the table, right? And I have blood pressure issues, and so my blood pressure like skyrocketed after that, and I was like super lightheaded, but like we just kept going, and I was like, I'm gonna freaking die, like something like. And this was closing night? Yeah, it was closing night, and I was like, just power through. And like other stuff was happening backstage, but luckily like it didn't affect the show. And that's what was amazing, is that we kept that show so special, which is really what it
And that's
was.
so great. Everything leading up to opening night had fires burning everywhere. And then, like, the 4 nights that it went on, it was a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, because we couldn't do a matinee because they had funeral services on matinee times. And every night we had to make sure it was perfect, pristine, that you could not tell that anything theatrical happened. And that was another challenge, just to make sure that it didn't affect the business at all for our sponsors.
Yeah.
And yeah, each night went so smooth as far as what you could tell from the audience.
Wow.
And it was just pristine, and I loved what we made of that. I
Yeah.
don't know that we could ever replicate it.
Yeah. Well, and like what was crazy too was just like how we had like no complaints, right? And so many people were like loving it. That okay, one of my favorite instances though is someone coming in and be like, can I get a family discount? like I'm like, that's not how theater works. And I think that's fun with being in a small town, because like a lot of people aren't as educated to how theater works.
Yeah, well, I mean, there isn't much theater there. There's one like small theater in an improv group, but like they came like seasonally. By what I was able to discover, because I was wanting to see some of the local shows and there was nothing happening.
Yeah.
So like this was different. This was different in every way for what the small town was used to.
Yeah. And I would love to do something again, but I would want more precautions.
Yeah, definitely a different style, but doing things in a funeral home is possible when you're in entertainment.
Yeah, yeah, and it was really fun.
Yes.
I really enjoyed it. I think the number one thing I learned, right, is prepare for things to catch on fire. Like I literally think every single day of tech something bad happened. Like I swear. And so we're like, okay, we'll just keep moving forward, right? Keep moving forward. And I was like, should we keep moving forward? But the thing is, it wasn't really anyone's fault.
No, it wasn't. It was just like some random accidents, like a plate broke while you're doing dishes and you lost your thumb.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like...
And like, let's just say like the emphasis of dedication that he went and got stitches that day, and
was still at rehearsal.
Was still at rehearsal like 3 hours later.
Yeah,
That's wild.
And we just like, it was fun. Like, was that show like the most difficult show we've probably done?
For me, yes.
Yeah, like
I've done even of all the experimental shows outside of What the Blank that I have done, that was the most difficult, but the most exciting.
Yeah. I think I've only had one show that was more difficult, but it was a touring show, and touring shows are just hard, right? Like, because you have to like make sure everything's in line, because if one thing's out of line, it derails, right? While like with experimental theater, derailing is really hard because literally you're in a dirt field. like it's hard to like derail something that's like, oh, there's no road. Like you can't go off the road.
Yeah, you can't go off the road, but you can definitely burn the field. You have to have a lot of good strategic planning, especially when like what we specialized in the early years of What the Blank Entertainment is like doing it inside of other businesses. You have to make sure that the business can still function when you're not there. And that can be very hard because you want to make sure it's accommodating in every way.
Yeah. And you have to benefit the business,
Yeah.
right? Like, and we were both benefited by this.
Yeah.
Definitely. Because more people learned about the funeral home, learned about their services, and learned that they're very compassionate people.
Yeah,
Well,
we got to like, really know the funeral directors one-on-one, beyond what they had experienced in the past.
And then for us, right, we learned, like, we gained, like, a good traction in Heber, and also, like, we got pretty good, like, followings from it.
Yeah, a lot of good things came from it in critiques. Not to like toot our own horn because we don't have one here to toot. But yeah, I think overall it benefited very well just because we got to say like we were the first to ever do something like this in this place, and
That's incredible.
Well, and to
that opportunity just doesn't come. Like, so many things had to align perfectly just to even be like, what if we could do this?
Well, and our, like, the project we did before, just like we had so many roadblocks that we're like, okay, we know how to overcome those roadblocks, so we'll be fine. And then different roadblocks appeared for this show, but because we had roadblocks for the show before, it helped us like hurdle over them instead of just being like, what should we do with this roadblock? Like we came at it proactively, right? Because we had to have a very like interesting rehearsal schedule. We had to have
very non-traditional in every way.
Yeah, very non-traditional. Because like most theater stuff, you do five times a week. Yeah. Usually.
But because services are going on and some of the people in our cast have school and different things are happening, like we had, I think at the max we had 4 days a week, and most generally it was 3.
Yeah, one time we had a week where we did every single day.
That was tech.
Yeah, that was tech, and it was good, right? But we were exhausted. Like
and then them to come in on their 1 day off, because they work 6 days a week. They get Sunday off, and then Sunday now they have rehearsal for 4 hours from noon to 4. So like right in the middle of the day.
Yeah, lunchtime, man. Like
it was a lot of dedication and very very hard schedule to follow.
Yeah.
We pulled through pretty well, and you guys got over it pretty well too. So
yeah, we were able to like, we got to a point where we were like, wait, we don't have to drive to Heber this week, right?
The drive was exhausting.
Yeah,
the drive added 2 extra hours a day for us.
Wow.
Yeah, and like there was times where I was like, am I gonna fall asleep at the wheel? Like, luckily it never happened, but like. It was intense, yeah. But let's go over like kind of like what we got from it, and then we'll end. But so one thing that I learned is that you have to be very adaptable to both the space and the actors, right? But you have to stand your ground too. Like I think there's a good like you kind of have to be the person like standing in the middle of the field juggling like 50 things, but you can't be pushed over.
Because you're in a place where you don't belong, and you got access in, and you had to keep your space.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because no one's expecting this to happen because it's not supposed to.
Yeah.
So like you're making it up as you go.
But you have to hold your ground on that because we have been classically trained in this. We have like that experience, and we had to like dig our feet in, and that was a great lesson to learn because it helped us develop all these projects we're doing now. Like I don't think we would have gotten where we are now without doing Edward Tulane, to be honest. So that's my final thoughts on that.
Yeah, I loved it. I had a bit more experience because that's what I studied my first 2 years of school. Was I just focused solely on experimental theater in random places because that's where my heart fell in love with theater and why I went this far with it. But to be able to do it in such a unique place with such a delicate audience and such delicate themes was just like a dream come true. That it could be pulled off so well and with such wonderful people to benefit the community and us as at the same time. The cast really became like a family.
Yeah.
And you don't get that every single time. That's kind of a roll of a dice, and it was just so much went bad, but it came out so well.
I think it's the diamond effect, you know, like a lot of pressure gives you a diamond. And that's what happened. Like, we didn't think it was gonna happen like that. We thought we were gonna keep a coal, like, but like the diamond effect really happened on it because of the pressure, and we kind of kept that family together. I think, like, which is hard to do. Like,
it's outlasted the life of Edward.
Yeah, and we still try to work with the people that we worked with because it was fun. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We also have this YouTube channel that this is on, and
feel free to follow us on any audio channels you might be able to find podcasts, and keep tuned for more crazy stuff to come, because I promise you this will not be the last.
Yeah, we'll have a lot more crazy story, and so this was How the Funeral Play?